Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of the Better Events Podcast. This is Mary Davidson, one of your co hosts. And in today's episode, we are talking all about using LinkedIn for better networking. So we have a lot to cover. So let's just get right into the episode. Here we go.
Welcome to the Better Events Podcast. Join two event strategists, Logan Clements and Mary Davidson, who believe we can all create, host, and attend better events. In this podcast, you will learn about event strategy and actions that you can use today as an event host, planner, or manager. Hear directly from the people who are creating innovative and inspiring events today and tomorrow, and grow your business along the way. Now, let's get started, and thanks for listening to the Better Events Podcast.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Better Events Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Logan Clements, and I'm joined by fellow co-host Mary Davidson. And before we jump into our topic this week, all about LinkedIn, we are going to start with our conversation starter. This one is presented by our friends at Tourism Richmond. If you haven't listened to our episode where we interviewed their CEO, Nancy Small, highly encourage you to go back, give it a listen. So much good information about DMOs, including what DMOs are. But this conversation is from our friends there. Mary, if you could time travel, which historical event would you love to have planned and organized?
I'm stoked for this question. Okay, bear with me. I loved history when I was younger. And oddly enough, the time period I like the most is the medieval times, the time that would probably be most terrible to actually live in. But if I could go back in time and plan an event, it's not a specific event, but I would love to plan like a medieval times fair back in the medieval times. Can you imagine what that would be like?
Did they even have planners?
You know what? I'm sure. Well, somebody was doing the work for sure,
Somebody
right?
was. Yeah. And you could come in and with your
It
modern knowledge.
Yeah. Really amp up that medieval times fair. There's probably like, I'll get rid of all like the heads on display and we'll do something a little more, family friendly.
Less morbid, right? Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. That's such a good answer, Mary.
I'm excited to hear yours. What's yours?
Mine is, not going to shock any listeners. It's around sports was where my brain went when I heard this question. And it was a toss-up for me between two iconic sports moments in my head. One, Miracle on Ice, which is the 1980 Winter Olympics in Lake Placid, where USA beat, at the time, the Soviet Union. It's a very epic hockey game. And so doing my sports presentation, I feel like I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be doing the presenting in that, arena with that energy. But I settled on I would do the 1999 Women's World Cup, which I had to Google because I actually didn't know it was hosted in the U.S., but this was a very formative. I think I was like 8 years old watching this. For non-soccer fans out here, this is the iconic moment where Brandi Chastain scored the winning penalty to win the World Cup for the U.S., and then she ripped her jersey off and dove on her knees in her sports bra. So there's a lovely article I'll put in the show notes about the sports bra scene around the world. But again, just these big iconic moments where you're like, oh, everybody was watching it. I would love to be a part of that game presentation, sports presentation team.
What if those are epic. That would be amazing. Would you go back though to the first ever Olympics? That would be also
I'd say yes, but I don't think they would do anything of the parts that I like. The Olympics would they happened. So if I was more on the operations side, totally an original Olympics. But I feel like the 80s and the 90s would be an interesting time where we have, MTV and even just, more entertainment things are coming up and coming. So it would be really fun to go back and, again, if I'm allowed to go with the knowledge I have now, try some fun stuff and be ahead of the times. Or if I have to work within whatever the historical parameters are, I still think it would be really, really fascinating.
Yeah, that's crazy. This is, just bear with me. When I was a child, I played this educational video game called Jumpstart Third Grade. If you're a 90s kid like me, you might have also played the Jumpstart games. They were very popular. And you could go back in time. And we went back in time to the Olympics. So, I don't know. It was pretty legit, Logan. You might change your answer.
I'm sorry. I had to Google Jumpstart because I'm like, Mary, I swear I must know this game. I do know this game.
Yeah.
I definitely played this game. I remember the laser game that they have, where you're in the you're in a space thing. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yep.
Oh, computer
Bringing
games from when we were kiddos. Thank you to our friends at Tourism Richmond for a great conversation starter. That hopefully that got you thinking, listeners. Mary, do you want to tell our friends a little bit more about what we're going to talk about today?
I sure do. But before we get there, this is a friendly reminder to save the date for the 2024 Better Events Conference this year. It is December 18th and 19th. December 18th is in person here in the Tacoma, Washington area. The 19th is virtual like it was last year. We'd love to see you there. So save the date. Check out the show notes for more information, which will be dropping at some point soon. But check out the show notes if you want to register your interest or anything like that. And then don't forget to join the Better Events community on Substack. Also in the show notes, we'd love to see you over there for more continual conversations, community behind the scenes, things like that. So now to get into our topic, we are talking all about using LinkedIn for better networking today. And we chose this topic because we had an episode recently about building your event resume, and we kept talking about LinkedIn. It just naturally came up. We kept mentioning it. And so we decided it had to be its own episode. So here it is. We got a lot of good stuff coming at you. And so if you want, pull up your LinkedIn, follow along while we're talking, or if not, just enjoy it and then do some recon on your LinkedIn after this. So to kick us off, Logan, what do you love or hate about LinkedIn? Tell us some pros and cons.
I feel like I have come around to LinkedIn. I think of all the platforms as a business owner and just like a person, there's so many social media platforms out there that it's overwhelming to feel like you need to be on all of them. And I will say LinkedIn has been consistently in my top 2 in terms of what I use both personally and professionally, but majority is professional. And I've just really focused my like business marketing efforts in LinkedIn. So I love it for that and that ability to connect with people. I do hate some of the spam that happens on LinkedIn, but I also think on all social media platforms, it is inevitable. Inevitably, you're going to get spam, but I do think that my love comes for it much more than the amount of spam I get. But Mary, how about you?
Yeah, I love that it's like a great way to get a hold of people sometimes. Like a LinkedIn feels like way more personal occasionally, depending on like what your interaction is, than like trying to email someone or something like that. So I love just truly the ability to connect with people on there, which is like its main function. And I really enjoy that. And then something that I dislike is this might be controversial. So I'm kind of curious your thoughts too, Logan, but like LinkedIn has seems to have gotten popular like more recently over the years. People are posting a lot. There's like a lot of thought leadership that's going on, which is cool. But then there's a lot of people who are like kind of starting to treat it like normal social media and like post a lot of personal things as well. And I'm almost like, I really don't want to see that. I really don't care what this person I met 5 years ago at work are doing personally, but I'd love to know if you're still at this company. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't follow you on Instagram for a reason. So I don't know. That's just my personal
That's so
hot take.
We love a hot take here on the pod. I mean, I don't disagree with you, Mary. I think there's like certain content that I post. I mean, for me, I draw the line. I have like I have 2 Instagrams. I have a personal and a company, but I do post a lot of what I put on my company LinkedIn, my company Instagram. I will put on my LinkedIn as well. But I do draw a little bit of a line. So I feel you. I think everybody's got their difference of like what makes them feel comfortable. But I think LinkedIn is such a great tool, no matter if you're someone who works for yourself, has your own business, freelances, or even working full time. Just because I feel like to frame this discussion we're having, and we talked about it with your event resume, I think a little bit, but you never know who you're going to need in the future. You never know where you are going to be in the next couple years. You don't know where that one person who you met who works at a hotel is going to be in 5 years. And I think LinkedIn is such a great tool for setting you up for success there, where you can keep in contact in a really low energy way to then kind of follow along on people's careers and like journeys. So that's just a big thing I want to keep people to keep in mind as we kind of go through this discussion. And that kind of dovetails, I guess, nicely into our next question, Mary. Like, why is LinkedIn such a powerful tool for professional networking compared to other social media platforms?
I do think it's what it's intended for. Like in my interpretation, is really like that connection, that networking, different than like a follow on another social media platform. It's naturally just made for that, and it's just a great way to, I think, follow up on conversations that you've had with professional connections, which you don't do on other social media platforms. Like you don't necessarily try to find that person on LinkedIn or on like Instagram unless you're have more of that like friendship type of relationship. And so yeah, it's just great that you can do that. And also, like, it's really easy to search. And I think that makes it really powerful. You could search, locations, job titles, industries, all of those types of things. And that has been really beneficial to me before. So the search functionality I think is awesome. Maybe that's oddly specific, but I think that's one reason it's great for professional networking. Logan, what would you add to that?
Yeah, and I think just because it is we get so much noise on social media, the fact that LinkedIn is purely for career things, I think makes it such an efficient tool. I also think it's really nice because people use like their real names. So it's easier to make a connection from I just met Mary Davidson. Now I can search her on LinkedIn in a way that sometimes Instagram, I know people have their business handles or, it just, you can search people by their name or by their company name on LinkedIn and you're going to get usually a good result. So I think that's helpful. And that search functionality that you mentioned, Mary, is so useful because I literally just did this the other day. I got an ask to refer an agency they were looking for like a producer, associate producer. And I was sitting there going, I know people. I know I've had conversations with people in the last couple months who want to do more corporate events. And yet I'm sitting there going, I can't think of anyone. And so I turned to LinkedIn and I specifically searched the word event producer, filtered by my first connections only. And then I was able to jog my own memory of like some people I knew and liked and worked with that I definitely wanted to recommend for that job. And so who knows what will come of that, but I will say LinkedIn was what I went to find those people.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I could not agree more on that one. And one thing that we wanted to kind of jump to before we get too far into the discussion is some key elements that make a strong LinkedIn profile. And that could probably be its own conversation. So we just want to touch on it because this is about networking. So part of it is about like your involvement in LinkedIn and how you're presenting yourself. And so, Logan, what would you say are some of the key elements of a strong LinkedIn profile?
Whew. I mean, everyone listening to this, I hope you have the basics because I don't really want to waste too much time on that. But I'd say basics like, yes, your actual name and headshot, like a photo uploaded and things. Yeah, description and like what your recent jobs that you've done are on there. But for a strong profile, I mean, again, we just talked about how the search functionality is so important. So something, if you go onto my LinkedIn, you'll see like I have in my headline, I put essentially like 4 words / combo words that I want associated with me. Why? Because your headline is searchable. So like mine is like event producer, sports presentation, event production, Mandarin Chinese. So making sure like you're utilizing your headline feature, it can just be your job title if that's what you want for it. But if you are someone who is like using and building your business, or maybe you're on the job hunt, having it be what you're looking for or what you are, or the things you want to be associated with, I think that's really important. And then actually building out all these different features that LinkedIn has. So I would say making sure you have in your experience, you've actually listed your jobs that you've been doing. It's updated. That's the biggest thing I feel like is making sure you're updated with what you're working on. Even going back and rereading something, maybe a job you had 5 years ago, just to make sure the way you're presenting it is how you want to present it now. And then I feel like those are the 2 big ones. I also have controversial. I don't know, Mary, if you have on yours. I do the about section is something that I make sure that to me, it's like adding the color for if someone were to read this and they've never met me, they could quickly understand like what I'm about, what I like working on, who I've worked with. And it kind of is like a general overview, but with a little personality thrown in there.
Everything that you said, and then just to add on to that a little bit, I was told that using the skills section is important. Recently, someone was like, "You need to have more skills on there," and so I went and I added some more and asked some colleagues to endorse them. So, Logan, will you go endorse me on LinkedIn?
Well,
Yeah, yeah, I can do the same to you. But yeah, so I've tried to build out those recently because it was brought to my attention. But I love also using the recommendations section. So when I ask clients for a review, I'll ask them to leave one on Google or LinkedIn. It's not common they'll do both, but I love, either one. Both are great for different reasons. And so I think it's really credible to have like a chunk of recommendations on there. I love that. And then one other thing too is I list the event work that I've done, not just the experience in the experience section, like a normal resume, but under like EP events. If you went to my LinkedIn profile, I list all my past and current clients. I actually do need to update this a little bit. But I've used this as a quick portfolio. When I get a quick question, I'm like, quickest place, look to my LinkedIn profile because our website only shows like so much. And so that's been actually really nice just to be able to send someone something really quickly. And yeah, other than that, one more thing. under your name, you have like the subtitle that you put there for yourself. Mine says like founder, VP events, experienced event manager. I've seen some folks that say like, I love events or something like that. And like, if you're searching for someone, that gives them nothing except your name and that you love events. So it's like really helpful if you have like your business or the company you work for or something like that, I think listed in that title, or your role.
Yeah, that headline, like I mentioned. So we got both of us love the searchability of that. So highly recommend it. Mary, a pro tip to you even from there of skills is, did you know you can link specific skills to specific jobs?
I seen that. It was kind of confusing to me, but yes. Yeah.
I will say I highly recommend this because prepping for this episode, I was playing around with it. So if you click on, I've done that now for a bunch of my jobs. And then if you click on it, it will list my skills, and it will actually then you can go by skill, and it will auto sort all of my jobs that are relevant to that skill. So like I have show calling, I have stage managing, I have live event production, and it automatically will put that. It also then does highlight whoever's endorsed me for those things. It says one endorsement, and it's a little quick link for someone to go and look at that endorsement, which I just thought was very interesting. And yeah, your LinkedIn profile is really what you want to make of it. I think some pushback I feel like I get from folks is they don't know necessarily how much detail to put into their jobs that they list on LinkedIn. For me, I would say be as detailed as you're comfortable with. I still probably have a slightly more detailed version on my CV, my resume that I send out. And by that, I mean specific numbers. I'm a little more general on what I put on LinkedIn, but I would be a little bit more specific with the exact budget or the exact number of teams or people on my team that I'm working with in my CV than I am on LinkedIn. But a lot of it lines up, and making sure that whatever you put on your CV resume also lines up with what you have on LinkedIn, especially as you kind of evolve in your career and maybe reword how you frame certain experiences. For me, it's always a challenge because I feel like I'll update one because someone's asking me for it. And then I'll be like, oh, I've been saying 8 years on my CV, but on my LinkedIn, it still says 7. And that's not because I don't have 8 years. It's just because I haven't taken the time to go back and update it. So just making sure all of those things, overlap and align. But Mary, how do you approach sending connection requests to people that you don't know personally?
Ooh, okay. I like this question. I think people feel passionately about this actually, but I don't mind it. I mean, it's like any type of outreach. It's just like the worst someone can say is no, so they could just not accept you. So I will connect. Honestly, I connect with somebody if I've met them in person. I try to find them on LinkedIn. It's not common that I'm just connecting with someone because I see they're in the industry. I know a lot of people do that. For me, I just like don't have the time to dig and see who happens to be on LinkedIn. It's people who I've talked to directly. And so I'll just connect with them. I'll add a note. You can like add a note for free, and I just say like, great seeing you at this event or whatever. Simple as that. Occasionally though, I have like done kind of more of a cold connection if I am trying to get a hold of that organization for some reason. And I'll do a note and hope that it works. I've heard that LinkedIn actually might limit the free amount of notes that you send every month. I don't actually know exactly. I did have a trial of like I don't even know what it's called, but it's like the paid LinkedIn, the premium account or whatever. And that was awesome, to be honest. Like it was way easier to do those connection outreaches to people if you were doing like a lot of cold stuff. But anyway, how do I approach it? I mean, I just do it and I try to send them to people that I know, usually more than I don't. So that's me personally. Logan, what would you say that you do?
More recently, yes, we were talking about it with someone else who told us that they don't accept any invitations from anyone they don't know and haven't met and actually like remember and know. And I was like, oh, interesting, because I kind of a little more loosey goosey with who I accept. I try to like keep out spam folks, which usually are like SEO folks who I know are just trying to pitch me something for my website or my YouTube or something like that. But I do some cold outreach for like my goal events that I want to work on. A lot of the like sporting events and things. If I don't have an inroad through my existing like network and people I know on email, I will use LinkedIn. That's like my pro tip for anyone who has a dream event, that sending an email to an info at or filling out a form, you usually just get silence. Like you don't really get a lot of follow up, but I've had some success with cold outreach using a LinkedIn message. I think my pro tips there is I just make sure that I'm very clear of in like 3 sentences, clear and succinct in 3 sentences. Hi, insert their name here. I'm an event producer I'm an experienced event producer in game presentation. I noticed that you do this at this sporting event. I'd love to learn more about your role. Do you have time for a brief phone call? Thanks, me, like Logan. And I just keep it short. And I have found in there, the other secret is that a phone call I've usually found is easier than an email, in the sense of if I have lots of questions, like some people just typing that much, it's like tiring for them, versus if I just pick their brain for 10, 15 minutes. And then bonus points, they get to meet me, get to know I'm a real person, kind of get to know a feeling for me via phone or video call. So that would also help me make a good impression on them if I'm eventually trying to find a job, through them. So I've had different success with that. For me, it's always it doesn't hurt to try it. And I've been pleasantly surprised by the people who are just open to talking. So I would encourage folks to do it, but do it tactfully.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip for sure. And then, so once you've connected with them, what are some best practices for actually engaging with your LinkedIn connections? I think that this is actually challenging beyond just posting. So Logan, do you have any tips?
Baseline, you got to post. And it's easier said than done. I know that. For me, having a YouTube channel and having this podcast has been a good excuse to remind myself that I need to go in and post and tell my network that I'm creating this content, mainly because it seems like a value add, and it's nice because I come up on their feed. But that's one that we talked about in the resume episode. I feel like any networking thing we talk about is all of us can be easily forgotten, and not in a bad way. Just we all get busy and we forget that there's folks, out there that we've worked with and we've liked and they're good at what they do, but we just start thinking about other things. And so LinkedIn is just such a great way to stay passively top of mind for people. And it does have the algorithm, I feel like, is actually pretty good on LinkedIn, that if other people, just even like what you posted, it'll then populate, onto their feeds. So for me, it's just making sure that I'm in a cadence of posting. And I literally have a to-do every Monday to post about my YouTube video. I have a to-do every Wednesday to post about our podcast. And then I'm trying to go a third time with anything I post on Instagram for my company account. I want to post it on LinkedIn too, because I have noticed in the last couple years, it's been a little more acceptable to post photos on LinkedIn, again, in a professional setting. But I've had stuff like I posted a photo from working with the Seahawks, and I had like 300 people like it and comment, and it like blew up like across my network. And somebody was like, I didn't even know you were doing this. And I was shocked because it was someone that I kind of talked to a decent amount. And I couldn't believe they didn't know that I'd been a stage manager for them for a whole NFL season. So the reach is there, but not if you just have a profile and don't do anything with it. What about you, Mary? What else do you do for connecting or engaging with those connections?
Yeah, I just love scrolling through and like just liking people's posts. I'm generally interested. Maybe I'm a creep. I don't know. I love scrolling and seeing like, oh, new job. Oh, how cool. Oh, you've said this. That's really cool. You got this certification. Should I get that? Like, I don't know. Just like that part of my brain really enjoys seeing what people are doing. I'm quite engaged by that type of content. But I don't have it regularly. I'll just do it like during my workday sometimes when I'm like, I need a little bit of a break. I'm going to spend 5 to 10 minutes, just go on LinkedIn. And I think it is important to like people's stuff, like comment, just like, because those are your connections, right? So to like make yourself known continually, but also just to support other people, I think is incredible. And I really like doing that in a professional environment. So yeah, that's all that I would add. I don't know. I'm sure that like there are some LinkedIn pros out there who like, but you also got to do this and got to do this. I don't know. I just think, like Logan said, do something, post something, like something, do something.
Yeah. And the power of a comment is really big, especially like you said, like Mary, if you like liking things or anything, liking, commenting, like LinkedIn algorithm does then repost it. Like I did that for an organization I volunteer with. I commented on it knowing then that would make it appear for some folks in my network that maybe don't check in on this LinkedIn group's post and things like that. So there is ways it's like pretty easy to amplify, but I think LinkedIn's what you want to make of it, but you got to do something, even if it's just a to-do once a week that you say, spend 5 minutes, on there trying to read something or post something. And even if you're like, Logan, I have nothing to post, I've been coaching other like folks in the event production world that I'm like, even if you can't post a photo of the ballroom or the space you're working in because it's, private with the branding and things, I was like, you can post a photo of you. My workaround's been like a photo of you, a selfie in the bathroom. That's like a professional clean bathroom behind you, or even like a selfie in my hotel room of me in my dress blacks in my all black work outfit being like ready to go to work. There's something there that can help you just kind of stand out and again show that you're active and working, and that'll help other folks know that you're interested. Mary, I'm curious, have you gotten any business from LinkedIn?
I've been thinking about this. I don't recall if I have gotten direct business from LinkedIn, but it is through LinkedIn that I've ended up like securing the business. Definitely. There are many instances when someone has reached out to me via LinkedIn. However, we were connected from a different source. It wasn't ever like a cold outreach. They just like chose to reach out to me on LinkedIn versus sending me an email. So I wouldn't say that's like exactly from LinkedIn. They just utilize the messaging feature. Anyway, um, and that's happened a number of times actually. And very quickly, I have to say, I'm like, thanks so much for your message. Can I get your email? Because I'm going to respond to you much quicker if we're emailing than if it's on LinkedIn. So I'll always kind of actually shift it out of LinkedIn. But have found in many cases, people do find it a very like natural place to just send a quick message. And I do appreciate that. So yes, I would say in one way or another, I have just a little bit, maybe more indirectly. Have you, Logan, gotten any business from LinkedIn?
So I'm just trying to think. I swear I have from like messages and DMs, but I know for sure certain I have it that people have looked at my LinkedIn and then decided to hire me from that. Like looked at my profile and used that. Like you said, like I've got the website, but also the profile is a really easy way to search. I did get found. I was told by a woman who did hire me because she went through another Event Pros LinkedIn post and just stalked everybody in the comments. Like anyone who commented, she literally then went and looked at their profiles and then was like, oh, here's a handful of people who have what I'm looking for, because she was looking for a very specific skill set. And so there is a return, I guess I should say. It is worth the time. I think it's just a very slow return, a very long game return. We've had some folks from the podcast here, listeners. If you're one of the lovely folks who've connected with us and reached out to us, we've heard great feedback via LinkedIn, and I've gotten a couple like phone calls and things set up through LinkedIn because because we're active on there. But I wouldn't say it's as obvious as somebody messaging me being like, hi, Logan, I found you on LinkedIn. I want to hire you. But it's more like a continued conversation. So it's a long game of things, but I have found my LinkedIn is helpful for, I don't know if it's social proof, I guess it would be maybe social proof and validating the things that I say I've done in a very like digestible format. And that does lead to more business, even if it's them just checking my references, quote unquote, by looking at my LinkedIn.
I think that there are so many different ways that you can utilize LinkedIn, and it's kind of the power of the platform, definitely. But Logan, do you have any final tips or advice that you would give to someone looking to get the most out of LinkedIn for networking?
I would say make sure it's updated. It is something that even we're doing this episode about LinkedIn, and I still have to make it to do every 6 months or so to go in and update it. And if you're someone who does freelance like I do, I wouldn't be afraid. You're welcome to go to my LinkedIn and kind of copy some of what I've done. But I wouldn't be afraid to have your freelance / your company as a job, but then also break out some of the significant jobs that you're allowed to talk about. If you freelance with another agency, or for me, like some of the work I've done at the Olympics or my multi-sport games, I've actually had those as separate jobs, even though I did them all while freelance, because of the search function, like we talked about here, that LinkedIn has, that I want to make sure that LinkedIn knows I worked at the Olympic Games. So if someone else is searching for people with experience at the Olympic Games, it might not index it from the wording that I put in my freelance producer job description, but it will know that I've tagged like the Tokyo Olympic Organizing Committee has hired me. Then I'm searchable. So I just look, if you want an example, you're welcome to look at my profile. I have kind of crafted that from what I've seen other people doing. So I'm happy to pay it forward. How about you, Mary? Final tips?
I would just say that LinkedIn is like a really great place to practice community over competition. That phrase that we love to say is such a natural place to like, comment and lift each other up. Or if you get tagged in something, there's a lot of like we mentioned, thought leadership, you'll get tagged in something to like add your thoughts. Tag other colleagues of yours, like get more people to share their thoughts in these threads that are occurring. It's sometimes always like the same people. So try to, like in the industry, bring in more folks to kind of make comments and do that. And it's just a great place to be able to do that, frankly. And so that's what I would say as well. And like Logan said already, but we do, Logan and I appreciate when you all reach out to us, even if we don't know you. We know you listen to the podcast. Send us a nice little note when you connect with us and say you listen to the podcast, so we know you're not someone selling us SEO, and we would be more than happy to connect with you, most certainly. And that does bring us to the end of our episode, and Logan has our bonus tip today.
Yeah, this week's bonus tip is all about on-site drinks, beverages for your team. So no matter if you're doing event production, event logistics, event management, make sure you think about little things in terms of like having places that your team can stay hydrated or caffeinated. So little things like a cooler or a fridge where the drinks can stay cold, especially if it's a hot atmosphere, whether you're outside or it's really hot inside. Even for production, it's become standard on a lot of shows I do. I try to push for it as a beverage station for your event crew specifically, available throughout the event. So where they can get water, coffee, tea, bonus if you want to offer soda or Gatorades or something to hydrate. I have heard from other pros that sometimes they don't even get water when they're working an event. And it makes me very angry because water is essential for a team. If you want to be more eco-friendly, I worked an event where we didn't offer single-use plastics for water bottles for the crew, but we had a water refill station. And on day one, we gave everyone a reusable water bottle and it had encouraged them to bring their own. So that's something to go for. But I do think that Gatorade and coffee are also essential if you just want a happy crew. So think about your on-site drinks and make sure you're including it in your budget.
Wonderful. Honestly, great tip. Thank you, Logan, for the bonus tip today. And thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of the Better Events Podcast. You can follow us and find us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, obviously, at Better Events Pod. So, yeah, this is a great call out. Like the Better Events Podcast on LinkedIn. We do have a page. And also, as a reminder, don't forget to check out our private community in Substack. Information is in the show notes. Send us an email if you have any questions or comments or suggestions for content at bettereventspod@gmail.com. And thanks so much for listening. We will see you again next Wednesday.